Today I'm doing another video for my Pony Club B-Test training series. This one is about saddle, bridle, martingale fitting and also checking the stitching. So we'll start with saddles. You want to be able to fit a jump, GP and dressage saddle for B-Test. You'll probably get a horse you need to tack up and check the fitting of. So I'm going to show you how to do it with a jump saddle. So first of all, you want to get your saddle, no number, nothing underneath it, and just gently put it on the horse's back. And then just let it move into place. And so a few things you want to look for. So first of all, just the security, is it pushing down? So I would say this is there's a bit of space back here, which means that when you're on the saddle and doing that, it may put pressure on. In a minute when I put the number on, you'll be able to see better whether or not it will. Next you want to just run your hand down here to check it's not too tight on the shoulders. Should be easy to do that. Then you want to check wither up into there. You should be able to fit 3 or 4 saddles with 3 or 4 fingers without a rider on. And another check you want to do is to get someone to see whether they can see through the gullet and see air. You don't want it to be tight on the horse's spine because that would be really uncomfortable for them, obviously. So next you just want to girth up without a number on again. So from girthing up, it just shows any problems that you might have noticed without the girth. So here you can really see there is a problem at the back of this saddle on this horse. There's a rise there. You don't want it tight on the horse, but equally I shouldn't be able to fit a whole hand in there so easily. You also want to look at the straight line here. So again, this is sitting a bit high at the back. This should be level. This point to that point, it should be level. Instead it's not, it's sitting a bit like that. So that will tilt me forward, it will tilt him forward, and generally it might push the saddle forward as well. Again, you want to recheck the shoulder one. It's quite nice on the shoulder, easy to slide my hand down, it's not too tight. And check here. I can now only fit 3 fingers, so that's quite interesting, the difference that a girth has made. And again, stand behind him. He's quite tall, so I would need a step, but I do know that with this saddle you can see all the way through. Those are the main points to think about when you're fitting a saddle. Obviously, once you've done this, you'd want to put a number on and a rider on and see it under saddle, see whether the saddle slips one way or another. You want to look at the horse if it has a weakness. That might be why it's slipping, or the rider's weakness. But you want to be able to fix this. But the most important things are the comfort of the horse. So is it too tight on their shoulder? That will make them sore. Is it too tight on their spine? Again, if it's touching their spine in any place, it will make them incredibly uncomfortable. And so you want to be really careful of that. It's the same things you're looking for in a dressage saddle. The only difference is that it won't be the same height from pole to canter. While we're talking about saddles, we'll have a quick look at the tests you want to do to make sure the saddle is safe. So really important that the tree isn't broken. So the way you can test it is put it up against yourself like this and bend it. If it doesn't make a creaking sound, you're good. And then you just want to check all of the stitching so that all of this stitching is in place. The most important is stirrup leather. Is it cracked? Is it in good condition? Is any of the stitching coming apart? This is quite good. Again, another really important bit is the girth straps. If these are cracked or breaking, you really want to consider it. As you can see, it's quite well worn, so the girth straps are a little bit stretched. It's okay at the moment because they're far enough away, but I will want to watch out for that. If they were right next to each other, obviously there's a risk that the leather would snap. Just want to check the stuffing, they're both even. And it's the same thing on the other sides. You also want to check under here that the girth straps are very secure into the saddle. They're not going to go anywhere, they're not going to suddenly snap off. And this stitching here, again, really important to have a check. This is why it's really important to give your saddle a really good thorough clean at least once a week, because you'll notice any stitching. Anything that you haven't noticed, you'll then pick up if you're doing a really thorough clean. Similar checks you want to do with the girth. No cracks or anything on this side of the girth. That will pinch them, it will be uncomfortable for them, and that the buckles are really nice and secure. Obviously, it would be very dangerous if your girth broke while you're riding. We're going to have a quick look at the fitting of a martingale. This is a random one from the tack room I just grabbed, so I have no idea what it will be like on Rush. I don't use a martingale on him. I have a feeling it's going to be very small. So I'm going to quickly loosen the neck strap bit of it. It is a full-size martingale, but he is a ridiculously big horse, so he may not fit. So the first thing I would say is it's a tiny bit too tight around here. I'm on the bottom hole. You never want to be on the bottom hole, because if it breaks, if you never want to be on the bottom or the top hole, because they're right at the end of the spectrum. And this, I just want it, I think it would get tight, well, if he's cantering or galloping, so I just want this a little bit looser. Then you want to check, does this reach where it wants to reach? Again, I'd say it's a little bit short. Realistically, when you've got a saddle on, the girth's going to be sitting about there, and that's not going to reach, so it's going to pull on his chest and pull down here, which isn't going to be comfortable for him. Equally, you really don't want it to be too loose. If it's hanging like a loop down here, there is a risk that the horse can get a leg in it as it's going over a jump or mid-stride, which is, again, very dangerous. When you're checking for this bit, what you want to be able to do is, martingale to be in a normal place, hold the straps up, and they should reach here. So as you can see, again, way too small for him. If I put this on him, he would be very restricted in his movement. That's why you want them to reach up to here. So in the ideal world, it would easily go up to there. So that's what you're looking for in a martingale. I would never ride him in this, because obviously it would be very uncomfortable for him, way too small. But quite a good example to see what is not right. You want to look at the same things as stitching of a martingale. I've seen many instances where martingales are broken mid-cross country round, and it's made the life of that rider very difficult. So you want to check that the neck strap part of it is in good condition, the holes aren't stretched, buckle is in good condition, all this leather is okay. You want to check this rubber back. These bands very easily get cracked and broken. You can see if you look at this one, it's already starting to crack. Not ideal at all. So you'd want to keep them new, replace them, keep them in good condition. This stitching here, very important, and this stitching here, because if this stitching broke, then it would no longer be attached to the rein, and you'd then have this flapping around on the horse. Same thing under here, all of this needs to be in really good condition, this stitching, this buckle, all of these holes. If this, again, if this broke and was flapping around their legs, it would be a trip hazard, it would be potentially dangerous, and just definitely something you want to avoid. Finally, we're going to have a look at fitting a bridle. So I've just got a plain, I've got a flash bridle here. You want to be able to fit a drop bridle, a grackle. I would probably practice a double, or know how to fit a double in case they ask you that. Before you put it on, I know roughly his size, you want to just lay the bridle next to the horse so that you know it's not going to be super uncomfortable for him when you put it on. Good boy. And I would undo the buckles, particularly of the bit. Not the buckles, sorry, undo the straps, so that if it does need adjusting, it's really quick and easy to do. Okay, so first thing I'm going to look at before I do anything up is the height of the bit. You want to see a little bit of a smile, so 1 or 2 crinkles. I would say that's a tiny bit too low, but I would only probably put it up 1 hole. That for me is better. You can see when he closes his mouth, you can see a couple of crinkles. Means when you pull the rein, this bit isn't going to sag out like that. Then you want to look at the noseband. So what you want is 2 fingers below the projecting cheekbone. So this is the projecting cheekbone here, and you want to fit 2 fingers in. If it's too high, you can see it's gonna rub on that and cause some discomfort. Good boy. So it's a bit high on this side, so I'm just gonna drop it down one. What is that? And then do up the noseband. With the noseband done up, you want to be able to fit 2 fingers in, so it's not too tight, it's not putting pressure on. And then if you've got a flash, it's the same thing. You want to be able to fit 2 fingers underneath it. You don't want your noseband too low. This is with any noseband, a grackle, flash, drop. You won't really have this problem with a just plain one, but if it's too low, it may rub with the bit. Or if you've got anything coming down here, if you have a feel of your horse's nose, you can feel the bone. It's quite solid here, and then here it goes. You can see there isn't bone there, that's just cartilage. So obviously if I had my flash down here, that would be putting quite a lot of pressure on his windpipe, on his breathing, and it would be very uncomfortable for him. Fitting the throat lash, you want to be able to fit 4 fingers like that. So I'd say that's right for him. The throat lash is really important. The reason that it needs to be a good tightness is because if you pull off, the throat lash is what stops the bridle, and you accidentally pull it, the throat lash stops the bridle coming off as well. So that's a safety thing, but again, you don't want it too tight, so you don't want it obstructing them in here. You want to check that the reins are going to be long enough. That's slightly more common sense. If they only reach up to here, they're obviously going to be too short. If you can reach them all the way back to the back of their saddle, that's going to be way too long. Bit fittings, you want to pull the bit through and be able to fit your little finger comfortably in there. I would say this bit is inching on being too small for him. I have to pull quite hard to be able to fit a little finger in there, and it's not comfortable. So that's not ideal. And that's not what you'd look for. And again, what you want to look for, and what can easily be missed, is the brow band. This can easily be too tight. If it's too tight, then it will pull the bridle forwards at their ears and put pressure on there, which will be uncomfortable for them. If it's too loose, then it might flap around. So again, you want to be able to fit your fingers comfortably underneath it. And again, with the poll, the headpiece even, you want to make sure it's not too tight on the ears, not putting unnecessary pressure down on the top of their head. And yeah, those are the most important things to look for. I will quickly take it off, and then we'll run through what you need to check for with the stitching on the bridle. Okay, so stitching on the bridle, again, this is a major safety issue. You want to make sure that no stitching is going to break while you're riding, so you'll obviously then lose control. So I'd also always start off around the bit, so it's just come out of his mouth. Everything that's attached to the bit, really important. If the cheek pieces break or the reins break, you're in trouble. So check that this hasn't stretched, all of the stitching's in good condition, the leather isn't cracked, everything like that. You want to check all of this. There's 2 types of buckles. You want to know about each of them. This one obviously faces outwards, this one faces inwards. And then you want to check all of the buckles on your bridles. You don't want anything to be on the top hole. If it was on the top hole, say you're out hacking and it broke, you wouldn't be able to fix it. But yeah, check all of your holes, all of your stitching. Around the headpiece, check for any cracks. If there are cracks around where their ears go, it's obviously going to pinch and be very uncomfortable. The same with your noseband. Check that there aren't any cracks around the noseband. Check that all of this is in good condition, and then check your entire length of reins. You'll only realise the importance of this if you ever have a rein snap while you're riding. Luckily I haven't, but I've got friends who have. You want to check the whole length of the rein. There is no weak spot, no nothing, because at the end of the day, you've got half a ton of horse on the end of this rein, and if something goes wrong, this is your safety point. So that's really important. And again, martingale stoppers, check that they're safe. They're not going to break, especially if they're rubber ones. They tend to be more flimsy. And last of all, check your bit is in good condition. It needs to be clean. It needs to be working properly. If the horse has bitten it and it's become weak anywhere, you don't want to use it. Don't take that risk. And equally, if there's any cracks or anything, it might hurt the horse's mouth. So you need to consider that. That's the main things you need to look for in the safety. The way you're going to spot them is by cleaning your tack regularly, taking the bridle apart and looking at every piece individually, and that will also look after the leather, which means that it's less likely to crack. Again, for your B test, what they're most likely to do is give you a horse, ask you to tack it up and analyse the fitting of the tack that you put on it. So it could be for dressage, could be for jumping. So make sure you know how to fit different types of bit, a curb chain, different types of bridles, different types of saddles, different girths, everything like that. Just be prepared, practice on your own horse, practice on other horses if you get the opportunity to. If you have at home more than one saddle, try all the saddles on your horse, pick up all of the negative points. You don't need to be able to analyse one specifically with the horse being ridden, so don't worry about that. But the main thing is that when you're on the ground, you can go, no, that saddle is hideous, there is no way I'd ride my horse in that because it would be uncomfortable, it would be dangerous, etc. And again, make sure, look for any weaknesses in your tack. It's quite an obvious thing, if you find one, you're not going to miss it, but make sure you're thorough enough when you're looking in your exam that you don't miss it, because that will be a big no-no in the examiner's eyes. It's another thing, safety is number one. So yeah, have a bit of a practice, give it a go. If you have any questions, let me know and I will try and answer them as best I can.